Hello and welcome to Visual Ancestor. I'm the Chief Curator, and in this video we're going to continue the process of archiving a photograph by putting in the information about it as step 2. So I am here at the main start page, and let's just first navigate back to the photograph that we've already uploaded scans of. And to do that, I'm simply going to drop the pancakes down to get the menu bar, and I'm just going to go to groups, and here I'm going to select father side, group 20033. Has one photograph in it. We initially created the photograph in the last video when we uploaded the scans, so I'm just going to click on the thumbnail to get to the photo view. And once I have the photo view, up here I have my control panel because it's my photograph, and the first button says edit photograph. I'm going to click edit, and that brings me to the familiar 1, 2, 3, 4 step process that we saw in the previous video when we uploaded the scans. Actually, we are automatically brought to step 1, and this should look familiar to you because we covered this last time. And so therefore I'm going to click on step 2, archive item. Now if I started off on this page, I just can click on step 2 here, and then it'll bring me to the page where I'm now going to specify the information about the photograph. So to begin, let's talk about the access type here. First of all, the group access type right above it says public. We talked about that last time, that I can make a group public or private. If I make an entire group private, all of the photographs in the group will inherit that privacy setting. They'll all be private. And likewise, if I make a group public, all of the photographs in that group will inherit that public group access setting. If a group is public, I can selectively choose photographs in that group and mark them as private. The reverse is not the case, though. If I have a private group, I cannot go through and selectively choose photographs to be public. So there's kind of like a narrowing down of privacy if you want to do it that way. But again, the whole purpose is to share photographs with current and future generations. So hopefully everything will just stay as it is and be the default setting, which is public. So for the image access, I'm going to keep it set to group. Therefore, it's going to inherit the group access setting, which in this case is public. Image type. So let's drop this down and look at image types. This is where your knowledge of photographs has to kind of come into play. It's not entirely important that you get it necessarily correct. You can keep it to unknown if you're uncertain. But if you know your photographs and your photograph history, this is a cabinet card. And so I would choose the top choice cabinet card. Event. Let's drop this down and see what our choices are here. The event is what the photograph captures. Most portrait photographs will simply be set to portrait. But if it's like a confirmation, I can select religious. If it's a marriage photograph, I can select wedding, and you get the idea. If it's a photograph of buildings or scenery, I have those options here. And if there's not an option here that captures really what your photograph is about, let us know, and we can certainly add it. There's also a military choice here as well, if it's like a military group. And speaking of groups, if it is like more than, it's not a hard rule, but what I generally do is if it's more than like 8 or 10 people, I'll go ahead and I'll select group, even if it's a portrait photograph of all of those people. In this case, there's only 2 people here, so I'm going to choose portrait. Number of persons, it actually uses the facial recognition to kind of come up with an estimate here. So 2 is correct. If there's a person in here that facial recognition didn't pick up, the number of persons might be wrong. You might need to just override this. Let's move on to the date. So the date in month, day, year here would be the date that the photograph was taken, if I know it, or if I have an inscription that gives me evidence to know roughly what it is. So you can specify your month, day of the month, and then type in the four date year. So let's just suppose, for the sake of argument, that I know that this is 1891, but I don't know the month and I don't know the day. So that's okay to put in partial information. It kind of doesn't make sense to put a day without a month, so I wouldn't do that. But if you know the year, put that. If you know the month and the year, put that. If you know all 3, that's great, put that. Now let's look at determination. What is determination? To capture the best, shall I say, scholarship in archiving photographs, I like to present people with a documentation of how we know what we know about this photograph. And so as we're entering information in various areas here in the library, we might have a place where we can actually specify the determination of how it is that we know what we're putting in. So dropping this down here and looking at some of the choices, we can see that we have, if we know the date from the tax stamp on the back, we have a choice for that. There might be some evidence in the image that tells us a little bit about the information that we're putting in. In this case, I'm going to select personal knowledge. So let's just suppose that I just know that my great-grandparents were married at that day, or that this photograph was taken on that day. So I can choose personal knowledge. Actually, a better choice, let's just say that I did some genealogy research, and I know from that research that that's the date that this photograph was taken. So I can select research. And as I scroll down, I see that there's some explanations of what we just covered. And I have a feature over here that says commenting. So commenting controls whether or not other members can comment on this particular photograph once it's publicly available. So I may or may not want that. I like that feature, so I'm going to leave this to the on setting. All right, so we're proceeding ahead. Let's come down to the next section, which is inscriptions and provenance. I do have in red a reminder to save my changes. The buttons are below, so that would be these buttons right here. Remember to save your changes, because I, for some reason, might not remember to scroll all the way down after entering in this information up here. So just remember to always save your work. Do not just go up here and just go to step 3. That might save it. I actually don't remember if it does. Always come down and click the actual button that says save or save and next. Okay, but not skipping down. Let's look at inscriptions and provenance. So in these 4 boxes, I am able to look at the photograph, mainly the back. That's mainly where inscriptions are written. And I can go ahead and type in what those inscriptions are. In this case, there's nothing written on the front that I can see. Not the photographer's stamp. Inscriptions are basically what anyone hand wrote on the photograph. There's nothing on the back. I can see the back view right here, and I don't have any other inscriptions. So those first 3 boxes I'm going to leave blank. I guess you could type none, but I'm not going to type anything in there. Let's look at provenance. What is provenance? Provenance is basically the history or the story of the life of the photograph from its origin to when I got it. So the provenance is a really important piece of information to pass down along with the photograph. So the provenance could be this photograph once belonged to my parents when they say cleaned out my grandparents' home and left it in a box that I found in the attic. So you get the idea. The provenance can be elaborate if you have an elaborate story, or it can be very simple. My mother gave this to me. In this case, remember the story when we created the group? The group that this is in this is from a box that I found in my father's attic, and it belonged to his parents, my grandparents. So this provenance here is correctly capturing the fact that this photograph once belonged to my parents when they cleaned out my grandparents' home and left this photograph, in a box that I found in their attic. So that's provenance. As I scroll down, you're going to see the section where this video is going to be played. You don't see it here because I haven't updated the page yet. But below that, you just have your additional scans to help you look for inscriptions and just work things out. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose Save and Next, because we are going to now proceed to the next step, which is, as I scroll up to remind myself, Step 3, specify the photographer. That's where we're going to use the information on the photograph to enter in information about the photographer. But keeping things simple, not to overload this page, that is the next step. So let's go ahead and press Save and Next. And we have proceeded to Step 3. We have a note here that says archived data has been saved. That's great. And now we're ready to go to the next video in this series, which is specifying the photographer. Thank you so much, and have a great day.